In the year 2000, a single boardroom decision erased approximately $1.5 billion in personal wealth from one man's future, and that man had no idea it was happening because he was 30,000 feet in the air on his honeymoon. That man was Elon Musk. And the people who took everything from him were his own business partners. This is not the sanitized version of the PayPal story. This is the version where you follow the money, track the power moves, and understand exactly how a group of Silicon Valley insiders engineered one of the most calculated corporate coups in tech history, and how the man they humiliated used that moment to build a fortune that would eventually eclipse all of theirs combined. Let us go back to 1999. Elon Musk had already made his first fortune. He sold a company called Zip2, a web software business he co-founded with his brother Kimball, to Compaq for approximately $307 million in cash. Musk walked away with $22 million personally. For most people, that would be the end of the ambition. For Musk, it was startup capital for the next move. Within months he founded X.com, an online financial services company. The idea was bold, maybe reckless. Musk wanted to build a full-service internet bank at a time when most Americans were still skeptical about buying books online, let alone trusting the internet with their life savings. He invested $12 million of his own money into X.com immediately. That was more than half of everything he had earned from Zip2. That level of personal financial exposure is not a business decision. It is a statement of belief. X.com launched in 1999 and grew fast. At one point the company was signing up customers so rapidly that it was giving away $20 per new account just to accelerate growth. That is not a typo. $20, real money, to every new user. The burn rate was extraordinary, but the user numbers were going vertical. At almost the same time, a few blocks away in Palo Alto, another company was building something similar. It was called Confinity, and it had been founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin. Confinity had a product called PayPal, which started as a way to beam money between Palm Pilots before pivoting to email-based payments. The two companies were in direct competition, aggressively poaching users and undercutting each other on fees. The war was expensive for both sides. In March of 2000, at the peak of the dot-com bubble, X.com and Confinity agreed to merge. The combined company kept the X.com name, at least temporarily, and Musk became the chief executive. On paper, this was a victory for Musk. He had absorbed a competitor and now led a unified payments platform with serious momentum. But the merger brought something else. It brought the Confinity team directly inside Musk's company, and they did not come to follow. They came with their own ideas about how the business should be run, their own loyalties to each other, and their own deep reservations about Musk as a leader. The internal fault lines were technical and cultural. The Confinity engineers, led by Levchin, had built PayPal on a Unix-based system. Musk wanted to migrate the entire platform to Microsoft technology. To the engineering team, this was not just a technical disagreement. It felt like an ideological betrayal. Silicon Valley engineers in 2000 had strong opinions about Microsoft, and those opinions were not favorable. There were also concerns about Musk's management style. He was fast, impatient, and willing to make sweeping decisions without full consensus. Some of the board members and investors felt the company needed a more measured hand. The kind of hand that would reassure institutional investors and guide the company toward an IPO without unnecessary turbulence. The complaints began to accumulate quietly, in private conversations, in boardroom whispers, in emails that Musk was not copied on. The Confinity faction was organizing. Peter Thiel, who had stepped back from the day-to-day operations after the merger, was being lobbied to return as chief executive. The investors who held significant equity had concerns. The concerns were being shaped into a plan. In September of 2000, Elon Musk married Justine Wilson. The wedding was held in Canada, and the couple departed for their honeymoon. Musk was on a plane when the board met in his absence. When he landed, he received a message that informed him the board had voted to remove him as chief executive of the company he had founded. Peter Thiel was reinstated as CEO. The Microsoft migration was immediately cancelled. Musk's authority over the product, the technology decisions, and the direction of the company he had poured his personal fortune into was gone. He retained his equity stake, which was significant, but his operational control had been surgically removed while he was unreachable. Think about that sequence of events from a financial strategy perspective. The people who executed this move chose the exact window when Musk was most isolated and most distracted. They moved fast enough that by the time he could respond, the decision was already made and announced. This was not impulsive. This was planned. What followed was one of the most valuable exits in early internet history. Till and Levchin stabilized the platform, resolved the technical disputes, and pushed the company through its IPO in February of 2002. PayPal went public and the market responded enthusiastically. Then, just months later in October of 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion in stock. Musk still held approximately 11.7% of PayPal at the time of the acquisition. His cut of the eBay deal was roughly $165 million. That is not a bad outcome by any objective measure. But consider what he had lost. If Musk had retained the chief executive role, steered the company through the IPO, and negotiated the eBay acquisition from a position of leadership, the financial outcome for him personally might have looked very different. The influence, the credit, the narrative of being the man who built PayPal, all of that was gone. Peter Thiel made approximately $55 million from the eBay sale. Levchin made around $34 million. The PayPal Mafia, as they came to be known, scattered their proceeds across Silicon Valley and began funding the next generation of companies. Thiel became the first outside investor in Facebook. Levchin started new ventures. The network they built at PayPal became one of the most powerful informal investment coalitions in technology history. Musk took his $165 million and did something that almost nobody in his position would have done. He invested nearly all of it into two companies simultaneously. $100 million went into a company he founded called SpaceX. $60 million went into a struggling electric car startup called Tesla, which he joined as chairman and later became chief executive. He also invested in a third company called SolarCity. He was not diversifying. He was concentrating. He was making three enormous bets on industries that most serious investors considered speculative at best and delusional at worst. Commercial spaceflight was the domain of governments. Electric cars had failed commercially for a century. Solar energy was perpetually 10 years away from being cost competitive. By 2008, all three companies were on the edge of bankruptcy simultaneously. SpaceX had suffered 3 consecutive failed rocket launches. Tesla was burning cash at a rate that threatened to consume the entire investment. Musk has publicly stated that he was down to his last few $1 million, taking personal loans to cover living expenses, and that both companies nearly folded within weeks of each other in late 2008. Then SpaceX launched its 4th rocket successfully. It won a $1.6 billion contract from NASA. Tesla secured emergency financing. The collapse was averted, but only barely. What happened next is financial history that still does not have a complete parallel. SpaceX is now privately valued at over $200 billion. Tesla at its peak exceeded a $1 trillion market capitalization, making it more valuable than the next several largest automakers combined. Musk's personal net worth has crossed $300 billion and at various points has been the highest ever recorded in human history. The man they fired on his honeymoon became the richest person the world has ever produced. Now step back and look at this from the analytical position. The board that removed Musk from X.com believed they were making a rational decision. They had concerns about technical direction, management style, and investor relations. Those concerns were not entirely unreasonable. Musk was aggressive and unconventional and willing to take risks that made professional investors uncomfortable. But what they could not price was what Musk did with humiliation. Most executives who get pushed out of their own companies either litigate, retreat, or pivot into a comfortable advisory role funded by their exit proceeds. Musk treated the PayPal ouster as data. It told him that operating inside a structure where others could override him was a permanent vulnerability. Every major company he built after PayPal was structured to preserve his control. SpaceX is private and he holds decisive authority. Tesla fights have been fought in public, but Musk has consistently moved to maintain his position at the center of the decision-making structure. The firing also stripped away any pretense that the technology industry rewarded pure merit or that partnership meant shared loyalty. What he saw in that boardroom decision was that power moves independently of contribution. The people who built Confinity merged it into his company and then used the merger as a vehicle to take the company. The lesson he absorbed was that when you build something, you either control it entirely or you are at the mercy of those who do. There is something worth examining in the numbers here. The PayPal board removed Musk because they wanted a safer path to an IPO and acquisition. That strategy worked. eBay paid $1.5 billion, and every stakeholder received a return. By the metric they were optimizing for, the coup was a success. But the company they created without Musk was a payment processing subsidiary that eBay eventually spun back out in 2015. It is a solid business. It is worth tens of billions of dollars. It is not a $100 billion rocket company. It is not a $1 trillion automotive brand. It is not the foundation of a personal fortune that has redrawn the map of what private capital can accomplish. They optimized for the certain outcome and got it. Musk optimized for the impossible outcome and eventually got that too. The difference in those two approaches, measured in dollars, is now incomprehensibly large. The most important thing to understand about this story is that the firing was not a setback that Musk survived. It was the event that defined the architecture of everything he built afterward. Every decision about company structure, investor relationships, board composition, and personal control traces back to September 2000 and a boardroom meeting that happened while he was on a plane. They thought they were removing a problem. They were actually setting a trajectory. If you want the full story and more dark business secrets, find us on YouTube at Corporate Crypt. The link is in the description. Subscribe so you never miss a story.